Welcome back to Live. It's now time for major stories in detail. Technology Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley says he is seeking legal advice with the intention of taking legal action against the opposition spokesperson on finance, Mark Golding, for what he considers a defamatory Facebook post by Golding. CVM Live's Vaughn Thorpe reports.
Opposition spokesman on finance, Senator Mark Golding, appears to be under threat of a lawsuit for a defamatory Facebook post, according to Technology Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley. In a statement sent from the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology office today, Wheatley expressed his disgust.
I jealously guard my reputation, and I will not allow either blatant defamation or innuendo to damage it.
Dr. Wheatley adds that he thinks it is part of a campaign of misinformation and innuendo that is calculated to undermine both him as a minister and the government.
I enter politics to represent the people that only of my constituency or Jamaica land we all love. And I will not allow persons to distract me from doing what I sought to do.
According to Minister Wheatley, he will use the powers afforded to his office and take decisive action to deal with the matter. The minister maintained that he's awaiting the decision of his attorney as to the approach to ensure his reputation is maintained. Vaughn Thorpe, CVM Live.
Meanwhile, Dr. Wheatley says he has summoned the 3 Jamaicans on the board of Petrojam to a meeting. The members are Dr. Percival Bahadur Singh, Richard Creary and Harold Malcolm. The minister says his decision was arrived at by preliminary findings of an investigation into several grave and troubling matters at Petrojam. The minister says he will use the powers afforded to his office and take decisive action to deal with those matters currently affecting the state-owned entity. He's asking the public for patience as the matter is addressed. The government Senator Matthew Samuda launched a broadside against the chairman of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, that's the PAC, Dr. Wickham McNeil, questioning the connection of some of his relatives to the deepening controversy surrounding travel expenses at the Ministry of Tourism. Here's CVM Live's Joel Croskill with the story.
Senator Matthew Samuda has hit out at the actions of the chairman of the PAAC, Dr. Wickham McNeil, for his role in the questioning of officials of the Ministry of Tourism regarding their travel expenses.
We weren't going down this road. You have opened a particular door and thrown mud for no reason. But it is in this context, Mr. President, in which the current chairman of the PAC must tell the country whether it is true that during his tenure as Minister of Tourism, his sister racking up millions of dollars as part of the administrative staff between 2002 and 2007, Mr. President. Mr. President, if that is true, that is nepotism, he must come to the country and tell us where he stands, where that matter is. Additionally, Mr. President, the chairman of the PAC must also tell this country and the Parliament whether it is true that a relative of his is a director of a travel agency that secured all the travel bookings
of the
country, of the ministry he led, Mr. President.
Point of order. The standing order requires that ulterior motives must not be ascribed to members of either house. And I believe that that is what is being done by Senator Matthew Samuda, and I urge you to apply the standing order.
Chairman of the Senate, Tom Tavares Finson, disagreed with Senator Lambert Brown's interpretation of the standing orders and allowed Senator Samuda to continue his presentation.
The chairman of the PAC must come to the country if he's to continue sitting in that position and tell us of the transaction that would have facilitated, or the procurement exercise that would have allowed a relative of his sitting in a directorship at a travel agency to book all travel for the Ministry of Tourism.
Mr. President, the member is assuming that the former minister had anything to do with the procurement.
However, the subsequent statement by Senator Samuda did prompt a rebuke from Mr. Tavares Finson.
I would hate to think,
yes,
Mr. President, that his issue with the travelling of the ministry is that the bookings didn't go where he wanted them to go, versus where
Point of order, Mr. President. Point of order, Mr. President. Point of order, Mr. President.
One minute.
Matthew Crossland.
1 minute. Senator Matthew Samuda. 1 minute, please. 1 minute. I didn't have a problem with what you were saying before. Would you just withdraw that last statement that you made?
Withdraw, Mr. President.
Joel Crosskill, CVM Live.
And in more news from the Senate, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith took the lead on the issue of the Public Procurement Act that was placed before the Senate today for amendments. Here once again is our Senate reporter, CVM Live's Joel Crosskill.
Defined as the acquisition of goods, works and services, utilizing the public funds, government procurement was examined in the Senate as amendments were sought to the 2015 Act.
Public procurement can and in fact does have a major impact on Jamaica's economy. This is not a matter that should be taken lightly. Government procurement accounts for a substantial part of the global economy at 10 to 20% of GDP globally. In Jamaica's case, public procurement is estimated at an even higher percentage, at 30% of GDP. And this shows how important the issue is to this nation. So we must ensure that the process is a fair and transparent one.
There are 10 principles that govern the GOJ procurement. They are value for money, economy, efficiency, equity, fairness, transparency, accountability, reliability, competition and integrity. Jamaica needs a public procurement regime that embodies the fundamental principles, and Senator Johnson-Smith detailed what the bill seeks to accomplish.
The bill before us seeks, in sum, to add or revise definitions, to clarify the role of the Office of Public Procurement Policy, to distinguish the approved registered supplier from the approved unregistered supplier, to clarify the responsibility of the heads of a procuring entity regarding its specialist procurement units, to include additional circumstances in which it will be possible to use public procurement methods to increase efficiency of the procurement function, again ensuring that we get best value for money.
Joel Crosskill, CVM Live.
And in a CVM Live update, the Manchester Municipal Corporation, which has been at the center of a recent scandal, elected a new deputy mayor on Thursday. This following last week's resignation of former Deputy Mayor Irvin Facey. CVM Live's Nicole Wilson reports.
These new health issues that I have been experiencing are both natural aging issues and in other cases, stress-related lifestyle issues. I have been advised that the lifestyle issues are those under which I have control, and those are the ones I must act upon.
This is an excerpt from the resignation letter from embattled former Deputy Mayor of Mandeville, Irvin Facey. Although the letter read by Chief Executive Officer for the Manchester Municipal Corporation, Winston Palmer, cites health issues as Facey's reason for resigning, his resignation came only after allegations surfaced about his involvement in the premature disbursement of funds. In the letter, he also took the opportunity to express gratitude to the corporation.
As you are well aware, it is not my intention to offer myself as a parish council candidate at the next elections. And I had not, in fact, intended to run this time around. However, I did, and it has been my privilege to have served Mayor Brenda Ramsey and now you as a deputy mayor for the municipality.
Councillor for the Mile Gully Division, Ron Kennedy, has since been elected as deputy mayor of Mandeville. Investigations into the matter continue. Nicole Wilson, CVM Live.
Leader of the opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, has taken the government to task over issues he says are being inadequately addressed. For that report, we join Joel Crosskill again.
During a tour of central Westmoreland in the company of MP Dwayne Vaz, leader of the opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, cast aspersions on the policies and actions of two government ministers, starting with Dr. Horace Chang and his alleged crime plan.
If there was a serious crime plan, we would know what was going to be done as far as getting additional personnel in place. We would know what legislative framework was going to be brought to bear on the situation. We would know what was planned for the intelligence gathering services of the country. We would know also what would be done in relation to technology generally and motor vehicles and mobility specifically. But all of that is missing, at least as far as public information is concerned.
As part of the tour of central Westmoreland, the opposition leader visited the Savlamar Hospital, where he indirectly criticised the plans of Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, who is responsible for the relocation of procedures from the Cornwall Regional Hospital.
They are facing the problem not just of their usual overcrowding, but they are facing the problem of the overflow from Cornwall Regional Hospital as well. That is a big problem, and to date, we're still not getting, the country isn't getting a clear idea of when we're going to have that problem resolved.
Dr. Phillips did, however, express positivity towards a project that is being championed by his People's National Party, the issue of squatters. Joel Crosskill, CVM Live.
Thanks, Joel. Transport and Mining Minister Robert Montague has made suggestions geared towards reforming the public transportation sector, which he says cannot continue on the same trajectory. Here's CVM Live's Khadija Thomas with this report.
The minister announced a comprehensive approach to tackling indiscipline on the nation's streets, including tracking devices to restricting drivers with criminal records from operating a public transportation vehicle. The minister, however, says he's also welcoming of alternative suggestions from the public.
Some of my proposals include having a GPS tracker on a public passenger vehicle that is on at all times. And that is to ensure that the Transport Authority knows where a taxi is at all times. So that when a taxi driver is accused of committing a crime, we at least know where the car was.
Montague also proposes that the badge of all convicted drivers be withdrawn in ensuring safety and security for passengers.
We can't have our children, we can't have our co-workers, we can't have our sons and daughters being driven around even day or night by a child molester, by a gunman, by a drug dealer. Those persons are not to be in the industry.
The transport minister says once a driver is seen operating a motor vehicle without his or her badge, the owner and operator must be penalized. He says they have a duty of care once carrying passengers. He adds that drivers who operate in rural areas should also be given the option to design their own routes.
I want to know if, because some bureaucrat that sits in Kingston behind a desk decide that this is not a route, it means nobody not live there. It means what he's doing is not necessary. So how the children must reach school? So we are saying, allow people to design a route and apply and register the route with the authorities.
Montague was speaking at the IGL 6th Annual Health and Safety and Environment Road Safety Awards breakfast ceremony. Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
Time now for regional and international news.
First, the government of Panama has made a further donation of 135,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars to the government of Antigua and Barbuda. This in the wake of Hurricane Irma last September. Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador to the United States, Sir Ronald Sanders, thanked the Panama government for acting on the recognition that coping with the effects of Hurricane Irma had placed unanticipated burdens on his country. In Barbados, 3 weeks after the May 24 general elections, one of the island's newest political parties appears to be falling apart. It is understood that major splintering has occurred within the three-year-old Solutions Barbados, with at least a dozen of the 28 candidates who contested last month's poll having left the party. These former members are now in the process of putting together their own political grouping. The bitter breakup stems from the refusal of several former Solutions candidates to give in to their leaders' demand that they sign contracts binding them to serve financial penalties in the amount of US $1 million if they opt to leave Solutions Barbados to join another political party. Meanwhile, on the international scene, U.S. President Donald Trump is to impose 25% tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods, accusing Beijing of intellectual copyright theft. Tariffs that affect more than 800 products worth $34 billion in annual trade are due to come into effect on July 6. The White House said it would consult on tariffs on the other $16 billion worth of products and would apply these later. China retaliated, saying it will impose an additional 25% tariff on 695 U.S. goods